Betty White's cause of death is revealed, so we'll talk just a bit about what went on there with a major icon of the last century and even coming into this one. In other news, the Elizabeth Holmes verdict has come back, so we'll discuss a little bit of what that case meant. It's not a case that I've been following, but it's one that a lot of people found important, so we'll talk just a bit about what's happening with that. Dan Crenshaw says Marjorie Taylor Greene is a Democrat or just an idiot, so we'll talk just a bit about what's going on there. And Joe Biden unveils meat processing aid as food prices spike. It is going to be all this and more. You're just mad you can't date me. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, Edheads. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar, and there's actually starting to roll back some of the news a little bit, which I'm kind of impressed by because they were throwing way too much at us leading up into the holiday season, and we'll probably get back to it as more and more stuff breaks down throughout the Biden administration, and more stuff needs to get covered up. Remember, they had a Maxwell trial to cover up, and if we didn't have 40 tabs across the top every single day coming up into Christmas, we might have covered what was going on in the Maxwell trial. Oh no! So, we're going to get through everything here. There's no reason to come back out and say, hey, we got to skip a bunch of stuff at the end of this. I think we're below 30 yet for the morning. Yeah. Wow, it would be nice if I could talk this morning. Well, I think we're below 30 for the news for the morning here, so we're going to get into it and talk about it over here on Contemporary. But before we get started, make sure you guys go and check out TurnSomePagesProductions.com. Turn Some Pages is going to be your one-stop shop where you can find all of your news and commentary needs. News, lifestyle, culture, all the fun kind of stuff that the mainstream is trying to tell you that you need to get from them, but most of us can do better with a webcam or a keyboard and some general knowledge right here in our own living room. So go check out Turn Some Pages. It's going to be a great time. You can go see great shows such as The Daily Ignoramus. Congratulations to Stephen Ignoramus, too, by the way, for 24 hours and 3 years on the air. I hope he had a good time. Unfortunately, I was fading fast at 10 o'clock last night, and I couldn't catch any more of what it was that he had to do, so I had to run. I had to go and get some sleep, but I'm sure that he did great. I kind of wanted to see what the last little bit of energy is there, but it's on YouTube. Parts 1, 2, 3, and 4. You can go watch the progression throughout the day. Go and see what it was that he did over there. That was a great time. I hope he raised some money for himself. You know, I would have taken the time to raise some money for charity, but that's where I go with that. So that's what we see off of that. So we will see what's happening with that and where that goes. And go check out TurnSomePagesProductions.com. Also check out The Porch Boys, Brit Salt, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, and The R-Rated Conservative. Go check out all of those shows. They're all going to be a part of the upcoming network once we get up and once we get launched. All right, let's check in with the financials for the morning. Starting with the Dow. The Dow is up 0.68%. That is up to 246.76. That is up to 36,585.06 points. That's up 246.76 points, or 0.68% throughout the day. Looks like it was a little bit choppy right off at the beginning. Looks like it turned up fairly quickly, but then had a little bit of chop, turned down below the previous close a few times, then had a steady climb throughout the end of the day. I'm sure one of the Investors magazines will tell us what happened with that. Looking in at your Bitcoin is at 46,000. $151 US dollars and 70 US cents. Let me get a quick refresh on that. Oh, that actually turned up throughout the night last night. That's up to 46,780 US dollars and 30 US cents. That is up 320 US dollars and 80 US cents, or 0.69% overnight. So good rise, definitely good rise up on Bitcoin. And if you've got a little bit of Bitcoin, well, you'll probably start to see some of your rewards come back. I don't have a lot. I kept like a nickel when they gave me the free $5 of Bitcoin when I joined Coinbase, and after that, that's all I've had was that's all that I've had with this. So that's what we see off of that. Looking in at the scrap metal. Your scrap metal prices are: copper is up, steel is down, and aluminum has turned back downwards. Looking in at your individual plays, number one, copper wire, number one, copper tubing are both up. Flashing copper is down. Number two, tubing is down. Insulated wire is down. THHN wire. For the longest time when I was reading this segment of the show, I thought that just said thin wire. I'm like, why do they have a separate thing for thin wire unless it's just a different material that they have to use for it? No, it's THHN wire, which I'll have to go back and look and see what that means. That is up. Romex is up as well. Brass and brass shells are both up, which over the week last week I have added to the supply of brass shells that are being recycled right now, I can say that. As well as the guy on the other end of the range who got to go out and rent one of the automatics. That was probably, I think, one of the first times in person I've ever heard that. It looked, I couldn't tell what it was he was shooting. It looked like it was 9mm. Or he said it was 9mm, but it looked pretty much just like an Uzi sitting there. Looked like a good way to waste a bunch of money and ammo, but, you know, I'll stick with the semi-auto for right now. But brass and brass shells are both up on your steel plays. Conduit steel has turned downward for the first time in a long time. Light iron is down. Number one steel is down. Cast iron is down. Rotors are down. Complete car is down. Shreddable steel is down. Stainless steel is down. All your steel plays are down right now. On aluminum, siding is down. Aluminum copper pin radiators are down. Radiators proper are down. Cans are up. Sheet aluminum is down. Rims are up. Electric motors are up. Ballasts are down. Lead is down. Car and truck batteries have turned down for the first time in quite a while. Catalytic converters continue to rise, which tells me once again that the automakers are getting ready to shift everything up into high gear. No pun intended. Compressors, alternators are both down. Carbide is up. Hard drives and motherboards are down. Power supplies, low-grade boards, and PC towers are all up. That's where your industrials look, and that's going to be the next step as to where our industrials go in this country. All right. From investors.com. Dow Jones Futures, Treasury yield surge. Apple makes history. Time to buy Tesla stock? Question. From Scott Latonin. Dow Jones Futures rose 100 points early Tuesday after the stock market kicked off 2022 with strong gains as Treasury yields surged on Monday. Tesla stock soared past a new buy point after strong deliveries while Apple hit a new high in the $3 trillion market cap. On Monday, the Dow Jones Industrial Average climbed 0.7%. The S&P 500 rose 0.6%, while the tech-heavy NASDAQ Composite advanced 1.2%. Among the Dow Jones leaders, Apple rose 2.5% on Monday, while Microsoft moved down 0.5% in today's stock market. Also among the Dow 30, Home Depot faltered while Nike fell further below a key level. Electric vehicle leader Tesla traded up 13.5% on Monday. Its rival Rivian was down almost 1%. Lucid Group climbed 7.6%, and Chinese EV leaders Li Auto, NIO, and XPeng Motors ended sharply mixed after their December sales reports over the weekend. I'm a little surprised. Well, let me rephrase that. I'm not as surprised as I was in the beginning that Rivian dropped as quickly as it did, because for the most part, I mean, there's no dealerships out there. There's no places for that. They got a huge order right away, but it's for the most part internal. So yeah, the vehicles are getting out there, they're getting used, and I mean, as soon as they're off the assembly line, they're on the road doing stuff for Amazon once again, but Amazon owns Rivian. Rivian's a partnership between Ford and Amazon. It's its own separate company, but its big interests are those two companies. So it's mostly going to be internal. So we'll see if it actually has a consumer market out there, but that's what time will tell. Among Monday's top stocks to buy and watch, Applied Materials, Huntsman, Goldman Sachs, and Wells Fargo are in or near buy zones. Microsoft and Tesla are IBD leaderboard stocks. Tesla was featured in this week's Stocks Near a Buy Zone column, while Applied Materials is an IBD swing trader stock. On your futures ahead of the stock market open on Tuesday, the Dow Jones futures rose 0.3% versus fair value, while S&P 500 futures rose 0.25%. NASDAQ 100 futures gained 0.15% versus fair value. Remember, trading in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. A lot of information packed into these. Seriously. Among the ETFs, Innovator IBD 50 dropped 0.7% as top growth stocks came under selling pressure. NASDAQ 100 tracker Invesco QQQ Trust rose 1%. The SPDR S&P 500 ETF ascended 0.6%. Elsewhere, the 10-year Treasury yield soared to its highest level since November 24th, closing near 1.63%. The 10-year Treasury yield ended Friday around 1.51%. Let's not do the rally here. Let's head out of this article here for the morning here. But looking in, we're seeing this kind of the same things. Dow 30, Home Depot faltered while Nike fell below a key level. Not a lot of people are coming out and doing big, major home improvement projects right now because if they've got to open up a wall, or if an accident happens and they inadvertently have to go and open up a wall, it's cold out right now in most places in the country. It's not cold out in Georgia, I can tell you that. Or it might be now at this point, but in most parts of the country, it's cold out. So they're coming in, they're fixing what needs to get fixed, and hunkering down through the winter. But EVs, it's also the winter time, and there are a lot of people who don't know how an EV works in the winter. I'm one of them. I think EVs are cool, but I don't know how they work in the winter. I'd rather have something gas-powered in the winter, so some stuff to watch, some stuff to see there. Let's grab one from investing.com. Dow futures rise 125 points. Optimism rises despite record COVID cases. From Peter Nurse. U.S. stocks are seen opening marginally higher Tuesday, continuing the start of the year. Rally based on faith in sustained growth and earnings momentum, looking through the short-term surge in Omicron COVID cases. At 7 a.m., the Dow futures contract was up 125 points, or 0.3%. S&P 500 futures traded 18 points, or 0.4% higher, and NASDAQ 100 futures climbed 50 points, or 0.3%. The major indices closed higher on Monday, with the blue chip Dow Jones Industrial gaining almost 250 points, or 0.7%, to close at a record high. The broad-based S&P 500 rose 0.6%, also to a record close, while the tech-heavy NASDAQ soared 1.2%. This fast start to the new year followed last week's strong close to 2021, which allowed the S&P 500 to close with a gain of nearly 27% in 2021. Recent U.S. economic data have pointed to a robust recovery, and this week includes a set of numbers that will provide important signposts for the state of the labor market at the end of a year of potential Federal Reserve policy tightening. The November job openings and labor turnover survey is due at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. This precedes Wednesday's ADP payrolls release for December, Thursday's weekly initial jobless claims, and Friday's official non-farm payrolls report. The U.S. registered a record number of new COVID cases on Monday, with a total of over 1 million infections, according to data from Johns Hopkins. And you know where you find this information here? Buried 7 paragraphs down in an investing article. There was no show-stopping headline about this. Hell, we didn't know about the fact. I didn't. Well, some of you guys may have. I was on vacation last week, so I wasn't paying as close of attention to the news. But I didn't know that New York City was going through a record series of COVID cases until I found out that AOC Biscuit was sitting without a mask on in Florida. The mainstream media is holding this back. And yes, there are surging cases right now. The deaths? Not so much, but there are surging cases right now. This would have been a panic attack. Even by April of last year, to see a number of a case total like we're seeing out of New York and other major Democrat centers. This would have been major news-stopping panic attack bullshit 6 months ago. Turning to the corporate vector, Verizon and AT&T are likely to be in the spotlight after agreeing Monday to delay the rollout of a new 5G service until January 19th. Apple is also likely to be in focus after the iPhone maker topped the $3 trillion threshold in market value, a little more than a year after breaking through the $2 trillion mark, while Tesla announced it has opened a showroom in Xinjiang, making it the latest foreign firm to be caught up in controversy over alleged human rights abuses in the far western Chinese region. Oil prices edged higher ahead of a meeting of top producers to discuss future output levels. The Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries and Allies, a grouping called OPEC, will meet virtually later in the day, with the cartel expected to stick to its plan to increase output by 400,000 barrels per day in February. The group has fallen short of its quota allowances repeatedly in recent months despite its official policy proclamations. Investors also await U.S. crude oil supply data from American Petroleum Institute due later in the day. It'd be nice if that pipeline could start transporting that stuff back down and filling our reserves and shit like that, but far be it for anything to make sense in this world here. That's what we see coming out of the finance for the morning here. A lot of stuff, a lot of words without a lot of information behind them right now. That's what we're going to see in the finance here as people start to wonder what's going to happen coming into 2022. Let's look at the big news of the day. And we got a couple of stories to get in before. Well, honestly, there's really not any big news of the day. I'm not going to lie to you about that right now. There's a lot of scattershot of a lot of smaller stories here. I mean, the entire show is pretty much the lightning round of the Red Net Show right now. I could get it done in a half an hour, but we are going to focus a little bit more on this stuff here. I just said the Red Net Show, and that show doesn't exist anymore. Zed Ed Redemption. Mondays, 5:30 Central Time. Myself and Katie Zed discussing the news of the week. From the Hills, Changing America segment. Betty White cause of death confirmed by her agent. From Alejandro O'Connell Dominac. Actress Betty White's agent confirmed Monday how the television star passed away. White's agent and friend Jeff Whitjaz told People magazine in a statement that the actress passed away peacefully in her sleep in her Brentwood home on New Year's Eve. Shortly after White's death was confirmed, fans began to circulate a post on Twitter and Facebook with an invented quote from the Mary Tyler Moore Show and Golden Girls actress, stating that she had received the COVID booster shot on December 28th. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's not what happened. I'm pretty sure she was probably already long since boosted. Eat healthy and get your vaccines. I just got boosted today, the quote read, which was placed next to a link to an article entitled Betty White. I'm lucky to be still in good health from a Minnesota news outlet, Crow River Media, according to the Associated Press. But Whitjaz later told the Associated Press that White did not receive the jab that day, although he did not comment on whether she has received one at all. I'm sure she did, long, long ago. People are saying that her death was related to getting a booster shot 3 days earlier, but that's not true. She died of natural causes. Whitjaz told the magazine, her death should not be politicized. That is not the life that she lived. That's fair. Even though Betty was about to be 100, I thought that she would live forever, Whitjaz told People. I miss her terribly, so will the animal world that she loved so much. I don't think Betty ever feared passing because she always wanted to be with her most beloved husband, Alan Ludden. She believed that she would be with him again. White said during an exclusive interview with the magazine that she was getting ready to celebrate her milestone birthday on January 17th, that she was so lucky to be in such good health and feel so good at her age. So they don't say what the actual natural cause was, but it does look like it was just, I mean, At some point, the muscles around your heart just can't beat anymore. At some point, it's going to happen to all of us. I smoked for 20 years. It's probably going to happen earlier for me than it is for most of the rest of you guys, but... And I pickled my liver numerous times throughout my 20s, so it might even happen even earlier than that, but... Jeez. And shame on the people who are trying to politicize the Betty White death, too. When Hollywood's ready to tell us how she died, they'll tell us how she died. And for all the people who yell about HIPAA, this is the one that really gets me. For all the people who yell and scream about HIPAA, a lot of them are the ones who are coming out and saying that Betty White died of the booster shot. If she did, that's between her and her family. Her kids, grandkids, and probably great-grandkids, and at her age, probably great-great-grandkids. That's between them. Not between you and your Facebook post. Let the family grieve, let the world grieve. But that's what we see off of that. Alright, let's grab one. A little bit of breaking news going on right now. From Stafford County, out of NBC4, out of Washington, D.C. Never seen anything like it. Driver stranded overnight on I-95 in Virginia after snowstorm. From Sophia Barnes and NBC Washington staff. Drivers have been stuck on I-95 in the Stafford County, Virginia area for more than 15 hours after multiple trucks crashed amid a major snowstorm that left snow and ice packed onto the road. Many drivers are out of gas, some don't have food or water, some say they have kids, pets, and family members with medical needs in the car. We're going to people as soon as we can. We understand the severity of the situation, Virginia Department of Transportation spokesperson Kelly Hannon said. Virginia DOT says a plan is underway to get guide trapped vehicles to interchanges and alternative routes. Prince William County firefighters were seen handing out blankets and water bottles Tuesday morning. The governor's office says it's working to open warming centers, according to a statement shared by WTOP's Nick Iannelli. Driver Ann Gould said stop traffic on Monday afternoon. Traffic stopped, not stop traffic. Driver Ann Gould said traffic stopped on Monday afternoon while she was on her annual trek to Florida. Gould said she'd only moved a few car lengths by Tuesday at about 6:20 a.m. There's cars and trucks as far as I can see behind me and in front of me, and it's looked like this for 12 hours, she said Tuesday morning. As of 7 a.m. Tuesday, traffic was at a standstill. The Virginia Department of Transportation confirmed both directions of I-95 are shut down between Ruther Glen, Virginia and Caroline County, and exit 152 in Dumfries, Prince William County. That's a 48-mile closure again. Wow, that is a 48-mile closure. I've driven that stretch of road before. Through the Fredericksburg area, which recorded 14.1 inches of snow on Monday. Now, as of right now, my focus is going to be on let's get these people off the road. Let's do what we can. Let's go up there to help these people get warmed up. Unfortunately, from where I sit in Wisconsin, I can't go out and do that personally, but you know, you can raise the information to people who may live around the area to say, hey, let's go out and do that. Don't put yourself at risk to do it because the roads are still going to be crap everywhere else. One thing to keep in mind with that, don't put yourself at risk to go and help these people. But if you can, if your backyard is butted up against the interstate, open the door for a few people. Let them in, let them get warm. Get some blankets out there for people. If you're close enough that you can get there without taking the road especially, get some water, get some blankets out to people. They need it right now. In a few days, if this is still relevant in the news, I will take my victory lap of saying 14.1 inches, we don't shut the interstate down until we get to 24 inches, which we don't. But, yeah, and another one of the things too, like having been in the South for a week, I do understand the fact that not a lot of people out there know to prepare for this kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, if you're driving around in the winter, you should be doing, especially if you're going for a longer distance or being out, actually out into the elements, you should you should have your tank full as much as you possibly can. Just in case you get sitting down there and you've got to idle to keep warm. But then still, accidents happen. You know, coolant tube blows off and you dump all your coolant all over there. That's your heat right there. You're in an electric vehicle. That's got to be fun too. There are probably people out there in Teslas who ran out of batteries long ago. We're now sitting there wondering what the fuck to do. So, my hope is that as many of the people as possibly can get to safety off of this, that we have no further accidents off of this. And I hope that the people who froze are minimal. I hope, my biggest hope is that there are no casualties to this, but we'll see what happens as we go. And as we get in, a meme to get in with your morning. With the popularity of Getter on the rise after Marjorie Taylor Greene's unfortunately yeeting from Twitter, which, by the way, a lot of people started going to Getter off of this, and a lot of people started urging to get off of Getter. So here's what happens when you meet all of your new Getter friends in real life. There they are, with their fresh side cuts, with tan lines on them, and the mysterious shapes in all their pockets. Alright, let's start with this one here. Elizabeth Holmes found guilty on 4 out of 11 federal charges from Sarah Ashley O'Brien. The jury in the criminal trial of Elizabeth Holmes, the former CEO and founder of Theranos. Why is there a Let It Snow cover on the Star Wars lo-fi beat? And it's probably not the best song to be talking about after we just talked about a snow-stopped road in Virginia. Whoops. Yeah, it's not good for your gas engine, you're correct, but it'll keep you alive if you got nothing else. I don't argue that it's not good for your gas engine. It's terrible for your gas engines. But if we can get you off the road alive, we can swing an engine into there. We'll get some money together and we can swing an engine into there. The jury in the criminal trial of Elizabeth Holmes, the former CEO and founder of Theranos, has reached a verdict. Holmes was found guilty on 4 charges, 3 counts in wire fraud and 1 count in conspiracy to commit wire fraud. The jury returned no verdict on 3 counts of wire fraud. She was found not guilty on 3 additional charges of wire fraud and 1 charge of conspiracy to commit wire fraud. Holmes faces up to 20 years in prison as well as a fine of $250,000 plus restitution for each count of wire fraud and each conspiracy count. Earlier Monday, the jury of 8 men and 4 women, which had deliberated for 45 hours at that time, returned a note indicating they were at a standstill and could not reach a unanimous verdict on 3 of the 11 counts. In response, Judge Edward Davila, who is presiding over the case, issued what is known as the Allen charge, instructing them to continue deliberating to try to reach a verdict. Hours later, the jury returned another note that indicated it remained unable to reach a verdict on those counts. After reading the note aloud, the judge brought the jury into the courtroom. He questioned the jurors on whether more deliberations would help return a unanimous verdict, to which no jurors raised their hands to indicate that that would be the case. He sent them back to deliberations to a room to complete the verdict form. Holmes, who could have claimed to have revolutionized blood testing, faced 9 counts of federal wire fraud and 2 counts of conspiracy to commit wire fraud over allegations she intentionally lied to investors, doctors, and patients about her company's blood testing capabilities to take their money and prop up her company. The verdict comes after a lengthy trial that kicked off last fall at a federal courthouse in San Jose, presided over by Judge Edward Davila. While Holmes, 37, was first indicted more than 3 years ago, her trial was delayed by the commie fucking coup and the birth of her child. The trial, which spanned 3 months before it headed to the jury, has drawn significant interest given Holmes' celebrity during her heyday as a rare criminal fraud trial of a Silicon Valley entrepreneur. Holmes started Theranos in 2003 at age 19 and soon thereafter dropped out of her sophomore year at Stanford to pursue the effort full force. After a decade of operating under the radar, Theranos began publicly touting its ability to test for conditions like cancer and diabetes with just a few drops of blood taken by a finger prick and announced a retail partnership with Walgreens. Many bought into the promise. Theranos raked in $945 million from the high-profile individuals who invested in Theranos, including media mogul Rupert Murdoch, Oracle founder Larry Ellison, Walmart's Walton family, and the billionaire family of former Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos, that valued Theranos at $9 billion, making Holmes, for a time, a paper billionaire. But the dominoes started to fall after a Wall Street Journal investigation in 2015 revealed the company was only using its proprietary technology for around a dozen of the hundreds of tests it was offering, and with questionable accuracy. Jurors heard from 32 witnesses throughout the course of the case. The prosecution called 29 witnesses, including ex-Theranos employees, retail executives, and a former U.S. Defense Secretary, as it attempted to weave together the complicated web of alleged deception that it says Holmes engaged in to allegedly defraud investors and patients. The prosecution aimed to plot out what Holmes knew about her company's technology and its failings when she knew it, and that she intended to mislead in spite of that knowledge. The defense's case, meanwhile, was largely hinged on testimony from Holmes herself. Testifying for roughly 24 hours across 7 court days, Holmes acknowledged that Theranos devices were only ever used to conduct a dozen tests on patients, but provided her side of the story as to why it didn't concede it was due to any technological failings. She acknowledged some of the government's other key points, but portrayed herself as a true believer in the company's capabilities and mission. While she expressed some contrition during her time on the stand, she denied ever intending to deceive, a key sticking point that the prosecution must convince jurors of in order to convict Holmes. Yeah, that's probably going to be a part of this too, is that almost all of these charges involved intent. If she legitimately believed that she was still doing the right thing, that she didn't intend to go and just pocket this money, that's the hard part to prove. It's the intent. It was the same thing with a lot of the major charges that we saw with, the gun cases, with the Chauvin case, the especially hard one with the Chauvin case, because one of the charges there, and he got convicted in all 3, required intent, and I didn't see the intent there. Intent is a hard one to prove. But that's what we see coming off that. Let's grab one from our friends over here at NPR. Facebook suspends Marjorie Taylor Greene's account over COVID misinformation. This is from Joe Hernandez, and NPR needs your money. They're publicly funded, but they're not publicly funded enough, and they need more. It is public, after all. National Public Radio, so they rely on private donations to go. So make sure that you hit that donate button and donate all of the money that you don't need to survive, because NPR needs it to spread communism and progressivism around the country. NPR, National Progressive Radio. Let's see what they have to say. Facebook suspended the account of Georgia Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene for 24 hours for spreading misinformation about the pinko fucking pox, a day after Twitter permanently suspended the Republican's personal account on that platform. On the other social media platforms Monday, Greene shared a screenshot of the message from Facebook alerting her that her account had been blocked. Facebook has joined Twitter in censoring me, Greene reportedly wrote in posts on the Telegram and Gitter networks. This is beyond censorship of speech. A spokesperson for Meta, which owns Facebook, told NPR, a post violated our policies and we have removed it, but removing her account permanently for this violation is beyond the scope of our policies. We need data, and if we suspend her account permanently, we will lose her data and the data of her followers. A day earlier, Twitter permanently suspended Greene's personal account for repeated violations of our COVID-19 policy. In an email to NPR, a spokesperson for the social media company had been clear that per a strike system for this policy, we will permanently suspend accounts for repeated violations of the policy. On Saturday, Green tweeted a thread about the public health measures imposed during the pandemic, criticizing many of the efforts health officials say were critical to preventing more deaths from the virus and slowing its spread in the U.S. She also warned of high numbers of deaths associated with vaccines. The Georgia Republicans' official government Twitter account is still active, the company confirmed. Green, in a statement following her Twitter suspension, said Twitter was an enemy to the American and can't handle the truth. "Well, that's fine. I'll show America we don't need them, and it's time to defeat our enemies," she said. "Social media platforms can't stop the truth from being spread far and wide. Big tech can't stop the truth. Communist Democrats can't stop the truth," she added. Twitter accounts with 5 or more strikes face a permanent suspension from the platform, according to Twitter policies. So that is what we see off of that. And basically it is. I mean, it's not a strike system. And I mean, I've seen some of the stuff that Marjorie Taylor Greene spews relentlessly over and over again. Plant. And for the most part, Twitter's just going to get rid of her because they don't like her or the DNC doesn't need to use her anymore. Let's grab one from Insider. Representative Dan Crenshaw says Marjorie Taylor Greene is either a Democrat or just an idiot amid the pinko pox testing spat. From John L. Dorman. Representative from Texas and noted Cyclops and warmonger Dan Crenshaw blasted fellow Republican Marjorie Taylor Greene as a Democrat or just an idiot after she told him to stop calling himself a conservative for wanting the Federal Emergency Management Agency to help improve the testing process throughout the country. With the rapidly spreading Omicron variant of the coronavirus causing a public health emergency featuring individuals waiting in line for hours and sitting in long vehicle queues to get tested, everyone from President Biden to members of Congress and local and state officials are seeking to find ways to mitigate the health risks of the highly infectious diseases. Shortly before Greene's personal Twitter account was permanently suspended on Sunday, she criticized Crenshaw on the social media platform after he suggested on a Thursday segment of the Fox News program Fox and Friends that FEMA resources could aid the American public during the public health challenge. They should be using our resources to increase those supply chains to get those monoclonal antibodies out to people who toe the party line and not those evil people in Florida faster. And President Biden announced this. We just haven't seen the results from it. Helping to get us more healthcare workers from the military or from FEMA to aid in some of these hospitals that are feeling a little bit overwhelmed, the congressman said. Greene, who has continually minimized the severity of the pinko pox and has been a staunch opponent of mask rules, expressed firm opposition to Crenshaw's suggestion. "No, FEMA should not set up testing sites to check for Omicron sneezes, coughs, and runny noses. And we don't need no FEMA in hospitals. They should hire back all the unvaccinated healthcare workers they fired," the Georgia Republican wrote. "He needs to stop calling himself conservative. He's hurting our brand." Well, your brand sucked. And that is if you yourself are a conservative. Crenshaw, who's been highly critical of the ultra-conservative Freedom Caucus. Ultra-conservative, okay. Freedom Caucus, which counts Greene among its members, criticized the Congresswoman in an Instagram story. "Hey Marjorie, if suggesting we should follow Trump policy instead of Biden mandates makes you mad, then you might be a Democrat or just an idiot," he wrote on his page. Greene also went after the Texas Republican on Sunday on Getter, the conservative social media platform, the Fed social media platform, launched by Jason Miller, who was the chief spokesman for former President Trump's 2016 campaign and a senior advisor for his 2020 campaign. Dan Crenshaw, who spends more time attacking America First Republicans because he, not so secretly, hates Trump, is talking about a bill to hold big tech accountable. But it's the same type of toothless bill that Paul Ryan types to try to sell to make it look like they're doing something, she wrote. Okay, that's actually absolutely fair. That doesn't change my opinion of her, but that's actually fair. She continued, "There are many Republican bills on the issue, but none of them have been passed. While we are in the minority, the most important thing that we can do is show up and vote. Unfortunately, Dan doesn't walk in the chamber to vote to stop them bills, even when he's in town." After Green's Facebook account was temporarily suspended for 24 hours on Monday, she also took to Gitter to rebuke what she says was censorship by a major social media platform. "Facebook is joining Twitter and censoring me. This is beyond censorship of speech. I'm an elected member of Congress representing over 700,000 U.S. tax-paying citizens, and I represent their voices, values, defend their freedoms, and protect the Constitution," she wrote. Yeah, I still don't trust Marjorie Taylor Greene. There are a few people out there that I somewhat trust that their hearts are in the right place. I think they're stupid, but I think their hearts are in the right place. But Marjorie Taylor Greene is not one of them. In fact, I'm pretty sure she knows quite well what she's doing. And I think after the suspension, she will go back to Georgia and quietly get primaried out by an establishment type who's probably friends with Dan Crenshaw. And nobody will have ever heard of Georgia District 14 ever again. Her purpose having been fulfilled. Alright, interesting one to come up, and this came up yesterday, 3 days prior to the January 6th celebration of more government involvement in your life. From the Associated Press, Ashley Babbitt, a martyr. Her past tells a more complex story. So, for those of you who've been living under a rock for the last year, we'll do a quick little review for the record, basically, what's going on with this. Ashley Babbitt, Air Force woman. I forget where she was from. They'll probably tell us in the article. But an Air Force, I think she was an airman, if I remember correctly as well. Air Force airman who was trying to climb through a broken glass door, got stuck in the broken glass door during the Capitol Selfie Fest on January 6th of last year, and was shot dead by a black police officer who was being commended and lauded as a hero. Babbitt was completely unarmed at the time and unable to move, with several officers coming up behind her as well. So she was in no position to threaten anybody, and she was still shot point blank. That is, if you accept the fact that she even existed in the first place, which I do question. I think Ignoramus is onto something with that allegation. I actually do. That there actually wasn't an Ashley Babbitt, and that this was a story that was manufactured to keep people coming out and saying how much they hated the government and how much they wanted to do things that could get them thrown in a federal prison. But let's see what Michael Biesecker has to say. The first time Celeste Norris laid out on Ashley Babbitt, the future Selfie Fest taker, had just rammed her vehicle 3 times with an SUV and was pounding on the window, challenging her to a fight. Norris said the bad blood between them began in 2015 when Babbitt engaged in a months-long extramarital affair with Norris's longtime live-in boyfriend. When she learned of the relationship, Norris called Babbitt's husband and told him that she was cheating. "She pulls up yelling and screaming," Norris said in an exclusive interview with the Associated Press, recounting the July 29th, 2016 road rage incident in Prince Frederick, Maryland. "It took me a good 30 seconds to figure out who she was, just all sorts of expletives telling me to get out of the car, that she was going to beat my ass." Terrified and confused, Norris dialed 911 and waited for law enforcement. Babbitt was later charged with numerous misdemeanors. The attack on Norris is an example of erratic and sometimes threatening behavior by Babbitt, who was shot by a police officer while in the vanguard of the January 6th Selfie Fest at the U.S. Capitol. Former President Trump and his supporters have sought to portray her as a righteous martyr who was unjustly killed. Trump has called her incredible person, and even taped a posthumous birthday greeting to her in October. The Donald has also demanded the Justice Department reinvestigate the Babbitt death, though the officer who shot her was cleared of any wrongdoing by 2 federal prior investigations. But the life of the Air Force veteran from California who died while wearing a Trump campaign flag wrapped around her shoulders like a cape was far more complicated than the heroic portrait presented by Trump and his allies. Of course it was. But once again, we go back into the situation. And by the way, this is kind of rich. First and foremost, that none of this, well, a lot of this, like the road rage incident that we talked about earlier off of this, that came out almost immediately after the whole thing happened. That was one of the first things that was talked about, was that particular road rage incident. But this story has lied dormant now. All the way up until we're getting ready to celebrate the anniversary. And by the way, make no mistake about this. I do believe a part of the reason that we're having such a slow news day, coming up what I'm predicting is going to be a slow news week as well, is because they don't want to take attention away from their holy narrative and the anniversary of the worst event in human history, the January 6th riot, the insurrection, the Donald almost took over the U.S. government. But these stories, these things that have come up about Ashley Babbitt, I mean, they've laid dormant for a year, first and foremost, and I'm sure that all these eager little lemmings and pawns over at the Associated Press, among the other outlets, have been furiously typing in Google, finding, or if Stephen is correct, creating. I can't confirm or deny whether or not that is correct or not, but I mean, if Stephen is correct, creating an identity for this person, who they're going to flash and scream around, and it's going to be on every news channel coming up on the anniversary of the Selfie Fest here. But also, it's a lot of these same people who are doing this right now who bitch and scream and complain when Candace Owens does the same thing for an unarmed black kid that got shot by the police. You ever notice that? They're kind of pissed off when Candace Owens or Conservative Inc. or anybody else like that runs out and finds the record of somebody on their side who they try to call innocent. Breonna Taylor, St. Michael, St. George, St. Jacob. When these people go and run out and pull the criminal record, it's like the world is ending for those people. But here we are, sitting here looking at the criminal record of Ashley Babbitt. Of which none of this matters, by the way. What matters, the only thing that matters in the Ashley Babbitt thing is the situation that was happening immediately surrounding the point when she died, and probably the 30 seconds prior and the 30 seconds after. Was it a defensive shot from the officer, yes or no? And I still look at, and once again, if this entire thing exists and happened the way that it was portrayed to me, no, it was not a defensive shot. What she did 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 20 years ago, etc., none of that matters. What matters in the case of what happened at the Selfie Fest is what happened in that moment and the 30 seconds immediately prior and immediately after that. That's what matters in that situation. The same thing with Gage Grosskreutz, the same thing with Rosenbaum. Well, Rosenbaum is a little bit further and a little bit further than 30 seconds, but because it does seem that there was intent to go and cause harm that needed to be defended against with the Rosenbaum case, which was evidenced by things that happened in the few hours that led up to that. But, you know, like what Rosenbaum did 20 years ago, 10 years ago, none of that matters in that case right now. But prepare for more of this. Prepare for more of this shit. Let's talk about Devin Nunes. Ron Filipowski, in his complete insufferability. Devin Nunes' resignation letter is read on the floor of the House today, taking effect at 11:59 p.m. Good riddance. This guy's insufferable, but he leaves videos at least. And he's not a former Republican either. All right, let's listen.
I write to inform you that I have notified California Governor Gavin Newsom of my resignation from the U.S. House of Representatives effective today at 11:59 p.m. It has been the honor of my life to represent the people of California's San Joaquin Valley for the last 19 years. Please let me know how I can be of help during this transition. Signed sincerely, Devin Nunes, Member of Congress. I write to inform you that I have notified California Governor Gavin Newsom of my resignation from the U.S. House of Representatives effective today at 11:59 p.m. It has been the honor of my life to represent the people of California's San Joaquin Valley for the last 19 years. Please let me know.
So, with that, I mean, that probably tells us that Truth Social is going to be coming in the very near future here, because, especially given the important votes that are probably going to come through the House at some point, even if he's in the minority, he can't really stop that, and all the brown shirts, I mean, Democrats are all in lockstep with each other right now. Even with all that in mind and everything else, that's, the rhetoric that goes along with that and goes around with everything with that, you would think that he would still wait on and serve out his term, knowing that he wasn't going to be seeking out another one. So I'm guessing that he it's a conflict of interest for him to be in the government and there at the same time. Or he can't do the work together at the same time, because there's a lot of work in one and there's a lot of work in the other. So, well, that's what we see coming off of that. From the Hill, Nunes formally resigns from Congress. From Michael Schnell. Devin Nunes formally resigned from Congress on Monday as the California Republican departs to run former President Trump's new media and technology company. Nunes' resignation letter was read aloud on the House floor during a pro forma session on Monday. It is set to take effect at 11:59 p.m. yesterday. The Speaker of House of Representatives, Madam, I write to you to inform you that I've notified California Governor Gavin Newsom of resignation from the U.S. House of Representatives effective today at 11:59 p.m. The letter reads, "It has been the honor of my life to represent the people of California's San Joaquin Valley for the last 19 years, the letter adds. Debbie Dingell, who was presiding over the House at the time, then announced with Nunes' resignation, the whole number of the House is 433. In addition to the Nunes seat, late Rep. L.C. Hastings' seat remains vacant following his death in April. Nunes announced last month that he was resigning from Congress to become CEO of Trump's new company, the Trump Media and Technology Group. The company is advertising itself as an alternative to big tech. Nunes' plan to depart the House was a shock to many in Washington, as the California Republican was poised to become the chairman of the powerful Ways and Means Committee if Republicans win control of the House in November's midterm elections. One sec. Well, I'll comment on that in just a second. The congressman, in his announcement, said he was presented with a new opportunity to fight the most important issues I believe in. See, there's a problem with that, though. And I mean, he was ranking enough, of course, to come in and become the chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee. That involved the House going into Republican control in 2022, which it most likely will, given everything that we've seen come out so far off of this. But that also involves, that's the important part of this, is it also involves another side of things. It involves Nunes winning his seat back in 2022, which, given the gerrymandering of California, is probably less likely than you would think. They moved districts around. They didn't district him out completely. His district was still there, but they moved the lines in his district to make sure that he couldn't run and win, that everything around him was at least marginally, if not solidly, blue. So I saw him leaving anyway. Like, even if he didn't come out, I don't think this was as big of a shock to people as they think it was. With California losing 2 seats, and Newsom's particular disdain for Nunes himself, along with the Democrat Party that pulls the puppet strings of Newsom, I didn't see this as a mystery at all. I knew he was going to go. I think everybody knew he was going to go. Because there was no way after the gerrymandering he was going to win a seat back. But that's what we see coming off of that. I got another one here from NPR. Talking again, make sure you donate because they need twice of all of your money now because you've listened to 2 articles from them at this point here. So we will see what happens with that. Senator Schumer tees up vote on rules change if voting rights legislation is blocked. This is from Barbara Sprunt and Deirdre Walsh. And remember, National Progressive Radio is never printing reality, and they need your money to do so. So let's make sure that you hit that donate button because every little bit of your money counts. And it's not your money, comrade, anyway. It is our money. Let's see what NPR has to say. Senate Majority Leader Chuck U. Schumer has vowed the Senate will forge ahead on voting rights legislation and will vote on changing the rules of the upper chamber by January 17th if the GOP once again blocks the bill. We must adapt the Senate. We must adapt. The Senate must evolve, like it has many times before, Schumer wrote in a Dear Colleague letter on Monday morning. This message is his strongest to date, suggesting that changes to the legislative filibuster are necessary. As former Senator Robert Byrd famously said, Senate rules must be changed to reflect changed circumstances, he said. Put more plainly, Senator Byrd, Congress is not obliged to be bound by the dead hand of the past. Isn't Byrd a Klan member? Yeah! Hey, Schumer? That might not be the best look for you to go back and quote Robert Byrd. He wasn't just a Klan member, he led the Klan. I thought that name sounded familiar. Dude, these robots, they're getting out of control here, you guys. Might have to do something about some of this here. Give me just a sec. Get rid of a couple of these here. There's a bunch of them. Get rid of some. Wow, holy shit. How many of those are there? Oops. That's what I wanted to do, not pin it. I didn't want to pin it, I wanted to report it. Alright, let's keep going. In an effort to make good on their promise to take up voting rights legislation this month, Senate Democrats are linking the upcoming anniversary of the Selfie Fest with what they see as increasing threats to the right to vote enacted by various Republican state legislatures. Much like the violent Selfie Fest takers who stormed the U.S. Capitol nearly 1 year ago, Republican officials in states across the country have seized on the former president's big lie about widespread voter fraud to enact an anti-democratic legislation and seize control of the typically nonpartisan election administration functions, Schumer wrote in the letter. Democrats say last year's insurrection Selfie Fest was propelled by former President Trump's false claims that the election was stolen from him and that election fraud was rampant, allegations that spurred Republican state legislatures to implement new voting restrictions. Democrats argue that passing the Freedom to Vote Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, which would, among other things, ensure that states have early voting, make Election Day a public holiday, That's the biggest fucking joke in this whole thing. Election day is a public holiday, and secure the availability of mail-in voting are necessary measures to combat the actions taken by some legislatures. Yeah, but you don't have the constitutional authority to do it. That's the problem. You don't have the constitutional authority for it. And the other joke that I always find about this, and it's always like these rich fucking trust funders out there that say, we need to make Election Day a national holiday so nobody has to go back and work through it. If you've ever worked as a barista in a coffee shop, at a gas station, at a gasoline station, as certain members of Congress would put it, at a restaurant, at a grocery store, when's the last time you had a national holiday off? If you work at a big box store, or a home improvement store, or a car dealer, if you make a national holiday off of this, they're going to run out and say, hey, it's a national holiday. Let's get down here for those voting day specials. It's only these rich fucking trust funders that get off on national holidays. I've been scrolling here as I've been talking, and I forgot completely where I was. The GOP is once again expected to reject the bills, arguing they're a form of federal overreach. In a 50-50 Senate, Democrats need 10 Republicans to join them to advance the legislation because of the 60-vote threshold required under Senate rules, but uniform Republican opposition has led voting rights advocates to urge Senate Democrats to abolish the filibuster or carve out an exception for voting rights legislation. In order for that to happen, all Democrats need to be on board. Senator Manchin of West Virginia and Kyrsten Sinema of Arizona have repeatedly defended the filibuster and may not be open to amending it despite supporting the voting legislation itself. Manchin took part in a series of meetings on potential rules changes with other Democrat senators last month, which continued through the holidays. Senators have been discussing two different approaches to altering Senate rules, either setting up a talking filibuster that would give the minority the ability to block action on legislation, or creating a carve-out that would provide a path for Democrats to pass voting rights legislation with a simple majority, according to a source familiar with the discussions. Yeah, we can't win on the rules, so now we have to go change the rules. This source said the discussions have focused on how to preserve the character of the Senate. No one wants the Senate to be a 100-member version of the House. If a talking filibuster rule is established and a group of senators launched a filibuster, the Senate would be in session 24/7. No weekends off. There would be a mechanism for a 60-vote threshold to cut off that extended debate period. It's unclear what route Schumer would take, and discussions with leadership and a small group of Senate Democrats, including Manchin, continue this week. As Politico reported, the U.S. Conference of Mayors released a letter signed by more than 140 mayors of both parties, urging the Senate to pass the two voting rights bills. No, they did not. 140 mayors of one party, the Mono Party. So yeah, if we don't get our way, we're going to go back and change the rules. From the USA Today, the title article of this particular program, an hour in, Biden unveils a $1 billion plan to increase meatpacking competition amid high inflation. From Donnell Eller and Joey Garrison. The Biden admin announced Monday it will allocate $1 billion to expand independent beef, pork, and chicken processing in an effort to increase competition and reduce costs for consumers. The move comes as President Brandon faces growing political and public angst over the rising inflation, which soared to a 39-year high in November, the latest data available. An ABC News Ipsos poll last month found 57% of Americans disapprove of Biden's handling of the economy. Brandon met virtually Monday with farmers, ranchers, and independent processors to roll out the initiative, tapping the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan to fund the effort. The White House says consolidation in the meatpacking industry is at least partly to blame for the skyrocketing prices. And you know who caused the consolidation in that? The government. The price of groceries has climbed 6.4% over the previous 12 months, according to the November data. That includes a 12.8% spike in the price of meat, poultry, fish, and eggs. 4 large meatpacking companies control 85% of beef processing, and 4 firms control 54% of poultry processing and about 70% of pork processing, according to the White House. And as their profits go up, man, the prices you see at the grocery stores go up commensurate, Biden said. The prices farmers receive for the products that they're bringing to the market go down. This reflects. Hold on. Okay, I feel better now. This reflects the market being distorted by lack of competition. But Sarah Little, a spokesman for the National American Meat Institute, whose members include giant processors Cargill, Tyson, JBS, and National Beef Packing Company, said the price increases are being driven by labor shortages and other factors, but not by consolidation. The meat and poultry industry's biggest challenge now is the labor shortage, Little said in an email. In addition, these companies have the same problems as any other industry. Energy costs have risen, input costs have risen, transportation costs have risen. This all leads to higher prices for consumers, just like other food companies and other industries. Yes, it costs more to get a side of beef in, which means it costs more to get your steak shrink-wrapped and packaged out of there, and then it costs more to transport it out of Cargill and get it back to your grocery store. But a little competition would help the way. Unfortunately, the problem with this is that the reason, not the full reason, but a big part of the reason we're sitting in this situation at all is because the U.S. Department of Agriculture has stringently increased the testing and regulations on the meat industry so that all of their competitors either get bought up by the big guys because they can't turn a profit anymore on the new regulations over and over again, or they completely go out of business. And then the big guys take up their contracts anyway. The government is spending $1 billion to fix a problem that the government's created. And then on top of this as well, the shutdowns, the new safety equipment, and everything else that needs to be done is also driving the prices up and keeping people out of the workforce. From the Daily Wire, Washington Post reports Pelosi expected to step down after the 2022 midterms. From Dylan Burrows. A report by the Washington Post on Monday claims that House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is expected to step down after the 2022 midterms as Democrats prepare for new leadership in the days ahead. After almost 19 years as House Democratic leader, Speaker Pelosi is expected to step down at the close of this Congress, ending a historic career that included trying to end W's Iraq War. No, just doing that for show. Implementing President Barack Hussein's signature healthcare law, impeaching President Trump twice, and squeezing President Biden's sweeping agenda through a narrowly controlled House, the Post's Mariana Sotomayor wrote. The article also discussed some of the party's suggested replacements. New York Democratic Rep. Hakeem Jeffries was noted as the early favorite. Majority Leader Steny Hoyer and Majority Whip James Clyburn would certainly rank in discussions as well, though the report suggested some Democrats are already ready for new leadership. But the members interviewed overwhelmingly agreed that Pelosi's replacement should be equally historic as electing the first female speaker. That leaves white men who are mulling a run, such as Hoyer and Adam Schiff, a Pelosi ally, in a difficult spot, with a party that's looking for more diversity at the top. It is also to the benefit of Jeffries, who would be the first black person to lead either party in either chamber, the report added. The mention of Pelosi retiring ranks among the strongest reports to date regarding the future plans of the current House Speaker, as well as who will lead in the future. It's going to be Cortez, most likely. Is going to be the new Speaker of the House. Or at least the Democrat majority leader or majority whip. That's who it's going to be. The Geek Squad is going to be all the House leadership. But unfortunately, we already knew about this because she's already bought her retirement home in Florida. A little bit of vax mandate news, because that's going to be coming up here in 3 days. Pence Group files SCOTUS brief opposing Biden vaccine mandate. From Brett Samuels. Former Vice President Mike Pence on Monday announced his advocacy group has filed an amicus brief urging the Supreme Court to reject the Biden administration's attempt to require large businesses to mandate the COVID vaccine for its workers or require frequent testing. Pence filed the brief, which was shared with The Hill through his political advocacy group, Advancing American Freedom. In the document, show me the documents! Pence's organization argues the Brandon White House mandate is unconstitutional and would exceed the previous examples of the Occupational Safety and Health Administration's use of emergency authority. America is about freedom and the ability to make the best decision for your family or business, and Joe Biden's vaccine mandate must be stopped in its tracks. In order to preserve freedom, protect American livelihoods and businesses, and safeguard our Constitution, Pence said in a statement. The brief outlines 9 previous cases where OSHA used an emergency temporary standard to expedite the standard rulemaking process. Pence's brief argued that there's a distinction that the previous instances sought to regulate workplace dangers, like asbestos or other chemicals that threaten worker safety, not require employees to get vaccinated or get some other medical treatment. The brief from Pence's group argues that OSHA rule requiring vaccination suggests the branded admin is not truly seeking to mitigate workplace hazards through the emergency temporary standard, but rather is attempting to use OSHA to accomplish an end that is but unable to persuade Congress to support: the mandatory vaccination of the American public. Yes, absolutely, that's what this is. They can't get Congress to make a law because they know the Supreme Court will shoot the law down, so they want to do it through executive action. From CNN, can weight loss help protect against COVID-19? Well, you're a little bit late to the party. You're a little bit late to the party because we've been saying that not since the beginning. I know there are a lot of people out there who claim that they've been saying that since the beginning. They haven't. But there has been the conversation going on since probably about April of 2020, when we realized that it was mostly comorbidities that were dying from the thing. And one of the comorbidities was being really fat, like me. In this holiday season, when the average American can easily pack on a few pounds, experts say there's another reason to pay attention to your weight: the pinko pox. People who are overweight or obese are at a much higher risk of more severe disease and even death from the pinko pox, and one new study suggests that losing weight can reduce that risk. The obesity epidemic has been a threat to Americans' health for years. It's the second leading cause of preventable death after smoking. With the pinko pox, it becomes even more dangerous. One study found that 30% of COVID hospitalizations were in people with obesity. Yeah, we've all known this for over a year. We've all known this for well over a year at this point. And of course, Fox had to come in here and remind us of the fact that yes, we've all known this for over a year. Critics rip CNN over late tweet linking obesity to serious COVID cases and death. Where have you been? From Brandon Gillespie. Liberal network CNN has ripped critics Monday over a tweet suggesting there was a link between obesity and serious illness or death related to the pinko pox, a connection already well known from data compiled earlier in the pandemic. People who are overweight or obese are at much higher risk of much more severe disease and even death from the pinko pox, and one new study suggests that losing weight can reduce that risk, the tweet read, linking to a CNN article headline, "Can weight loss help protect against COVID-19?" All right, let's see the critics. Mary Margaret Olahan says, a truly shocking development. Ned Ryan says, yeah, we've been aware of this for quite some time. Thanks for catching up. In fact, probably upwards of 80% of COVID cases and deaths are linked to obesity. Christina Pusha, why did it take so long for CNN to acknowledge this fact? Avi Yemeni says there's nothing new about the study, but CNN is finally reporting it suggests they've lost control of the narrative, because it turns out people aren't as dumb as they thought. Tony Katz says, we know, where have you been? Paul Thacker, always on the cutting edge of journalism. And Rebecca Heinrichs, we know, we've known. Trust me, the first day I get out of work early this week, I will be back at the gym, taking care of what I put on over the past 2 weeks. I got another one from the Daily Wire for you guys, and I have a meme that goes with this one as well. The View returns to isolation as Whoopi Goldberg and Sunny Hostin test positive for the pinko pox. The View was back to filming in studio for a short time and had strict vaccination requirements for all staff, but those measures weren't enough to keep everyone healthy. It was announced during the January 3rd show that co-hosts Whoopi Goldberg and Sunny Hostin both tested positive for the pinko pox again over the holidays, which forced Goldberg to skip sitting on the panel completely. The rest of the women joined by a teleconference rather than going back to the set. Joy Behar stepped in as moderator in Goldberg's absence. Well, they say there's no place like home for the holidays, and that's exactly where we are today, so Happy New Year from all of our living rooms, Behar quipped with a laugh. As you can see, we're back in boxes doing the show remotely, hopefully just for a week. I'm praying that it's just a week, but you never know because this Omicron thing is all over the place. I don't know how so many people can come back and test positive so many times over and over in a row, but I did get actual photographic evidence of Sunny Hostin's COVID test. Are you guys ready to see it? Are you ready? There it is. And while you guys appreciate that, I'm going to go get rid of another robot. You like that? Yeah. That's Oh, Leibt to the Max has been busy over that too. Thank you, Leibt to the Max. Yeah, there it is. There's Sunny Hostin's COVID test. Alright, what else do we have? Unvaccinated Mayo employees are officially being terminated. Lawmakers react. This is from KTTC out of Rochester, Minnesota, which that's local to the Mayo Clinic, so obviously. From Carly Petrus. The Mayo Clinic vaccine mandate takes effect today, and those Mayo employees who decided not to get vaccinated are officially being terminated. Employees knew this day was coming for several months. In fact, the first mention of mandatory vaccination of Mayo employees was heard back in July of 2021. Termination was not part of the conversation until September of 2021. The vaccine has been highly politicized since it was released in the US. Mayo is making these decisions based on its needs, and I think that it should be respected. I think Mayo should be able to make these decisions. It's a private business, said Minnesota Rep. Tina Liebling. It's a semi-private business. You take a lot of Medicare and government grants. You're probably about a 40% private business, if I remember how your books read out exactly. We're in a precarious situation, and we need to look at this reasonably, rationally, and with common sense. Common sense tells me that everyone can catch it and spread it when they're then why are we firing these employees? Said Minnesota Rep. Peggy Bennett. KTTC spoke with former Mayo Clinic employee today after she was terminated for refusing to get the jab. She said she went to work without knowing how or when she was actually going to be let go. She messaged us about an hour after the interview, asking us not to use it because she was still too uncomfortable. KTTC received a lot of feedback following the social media post regarding the situation. Many commenters are being involved with Mayo. Within our entire department, we're losing some very valuable nurses, and we absolutely hate to see them go, but again, they have a responsibility as healthcare workers, in my opinion, to do the right thing and be vaccinated, said Mayo Clinic LPN Kim Ristow. KTTC reached out to the Mayo Clinic and could not get anyone to talk in person. They sent us a statement explaining why this is happening in part. Based on science, trademark, and data, copyright, it's clear that vaccination keeps people out of the hospital and saves lives. Really? Are you sure about that? That's true for everyone in the community, and it's especially true for the main patients with serious or complex diseases who seek care at Mayo Clinic each day. According to Mayo, more than 90% of staff are on board with this. I do understand the whole my body, my choice, and I can respect that, but to work in the healthcare industry, you have to comply, said Ristow. So, I'm in very mixed situations off of this because the science and data do not, this is YouTube. The science and data do show that vaccines work completely and everybody should run out and get one as soon as they can. And nobody should go without the vaccine because they completely work and everybody should have one. Susan, don't ban me. But as for everything else, this should be a this should be your decision on what to do with everything. Your body, your choice. But also being on the healthcare side, if this actually shows that there's no real spread to this, I don't know. I still think that this should all be voluntary, but I think that the elbow should be especially in to healthcare workers, and I don't think that firing them is the answer right now. I really don't. So that's what we see off of that. From ABC7. COVID vaccine proof in Chicago, Cook County for bars, restaurants, and indoor venues takes effect. This is for Arlington Heights, Orland Park, Tinley Park, Burr Ridge, all say they will not enforce the mandate. Are those like Chicago proper, or I forget what is actually considered Chicago proper and what isn't. I know Tinley Park is. I think Arlington Heights is not Chicago though, so they would have no reason to enforce the mandate if they didn't want to. This is from Jessica D'Onofrio. Yeah, because Beetlejuice's reign ends outside the loop, if I remember correctly, doesn't it? Some of my Chicago people help me out with that one. From Chicago, a proof of vaccination mandate for many indoor public places, including restaurants and gyms, went into effect for the city of Chicago and most of suburban Cook County. Okay, so it was the county, that's why. That's why. On Monday, the mandate applies to everyone age 5 and older and includes restaurants, bars, gyms, and other indoor venues like sports and entertainment areas. The rules in Chicago and suburban Cook don't apply to those inside venues for less than 10 minutes, like those picking up takeout. They don't also apply to houses of worship, which means that they're bullshit. They're crap. If this was such a moral imperative, then they would apply to people being inside for more than 10 minutes. Club Pilates, Lincoln Park, has been planning this for days, this day for weeks, aligning with the businesses with the city's new vaccine mandate. So we've been reaching out to members for the last 2 weeks or so, just asking them to submit their vaccination cards, so it's a super easy process when they come in. Owner Abby Phelps said, there are people who are disappointed by this decision as well, and ultimately we're just following the mandate. You'll be able to show proof of vaccination with a physical card, a picture of your card, or through the state's new Smart Health Pass on your phone. Suburbs like Arlington Heights, Burr Ridge, Orland Park, and Tinley Park have all said that they won't enforce the vaccine mandate. Meanwhile, some business owners are concerned about the new mandate causing friction with customers who don't comply. There are people who are disappointed by this decision as well, and ultimately we're just following the mandate, Phelps said. MacArthur's restaurant in Austin is just doing carry-out for now, choosing to opt out of dine-in with the new mandate and the latest surge of the pinko pox. The restaurant spokesman, Maurice Gaitner, said some customers have offered to show their vaccination cards, but they do not want staffers to have to confront folks who do not want to comply. He also said that particularly in their neighborhood, which has been hard hit by COVID, they want to reduce the chances of spreading the virus. But the city's new rules come with some mixed emotions. It's really tough because I think everyone should have a choice, but I also know people want to feel more protected, said Shannon Carlson, member of the Club Pilates Lincoln Park. Many businesses are working out how to enforce it to avoid friction with customers. Club Pilates is just hoping to make the process as easy as possible. So, for those of you in Chicago and Cook County, which I don't need to explain anymore, I figured it out, but for those of you there, it's here. Holy shit, are we actually not going to get through everything? It's already 9. Holy fuck. Where did the morning go? Alright. Man sets himself on fire after angry rant about vaccine mandates. From Jenna Romaine. An Australian man self-immolated on New Year's Day after going on a rant about the current coronavirus vaccine mandates. Witnesses told authorities and the Herald Sun that the man was sitting in his vehicle in Melbourne about 8 p.m. when he began to rant about the current vaccine mandates in the country. He was screaming about the mandates, Lydia O'Connor told the Herald Sun. He was screaming, "No vax ID," and throwing books. He then doused himself and his vehicle with gasoline and lit himself on fire. His skin was burning. He was on fire. An identified woman told the outlet, "Yeah, that's usually what it means when you set yourself on fire." 5 bystanders reportedly aided police and firefighters in restraining the man so they could extinguish him with water. He was transported by ambulance to the local hospital, where he is in critical but stable condition. And probably just went and got a vaccine, too. Against his will. Victoria State, where the incident occurred, requires people to present proof of vaccination to enter bars, restaurants, and other businesses, and workers also required to be fully vaccinated against the coronavirus. And, well, it's from a distance, but here it is. This is how it happened. Or the aftermath,
on the road
at least.
there, he's just fucking yelling out, "No vaccine passport, no digital ID." He's just fucking blowing his car up.
He's fucking blowing his car up.
Just fucking burned himself and shit.
Just fucking burned himself and shit.
Fucking hell, Melbourne. Dan Andrews, that's on your fucking hands, you dog.
Nice. I like the end of that. And, I mean, just like religious protesters in South Vietnam knew how to stage a goddamn demonstration. Just like this. Light yourself on fire! Alright. From CNN. I think we could probably finish up all the rest of this year. There's not much left. We still have to do Twitter trending, though. A large fire tears through South Africa's parliament, collapsing roof and gutting entire floors. A large fire tore through South Africa's parliament in Cape Town on Sunday, causing the roof of one of the buildings to collapse and gutting the chamber of the National Assembly. Images from the scene showed flames shooting out of the top of one building, sending plumes of thick black smoke into the sky above Parliament and into the neighboring streets. The fire broke out on Sunday morning, and more than 12 hours later, dozens of firefighters were still working to bring the blaze under control. No injuries or fatalities have been reported. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa said it appeared the sprinkler system did not work as it was supposed to, and that a person was being questioned by authorities in relation to the fire. Ramaphosa praised firefighters for working to stop Parliament from being razed to ashes, but said the fire had devastated the parliamentary precinct and its contents and assets, including Parliament's historical treasures and heritage. And that went on, like they said, for a good long time. J.P. Smith, a Cape Town mayoral committee member responsible for safety and security, told a news conference outside Parliament that the entire parliamentary complex is severely damaged, waterlogged, and smoke damaged. The roof above the old assembly hall is completely gone, and the offices adjacent to it and the gym are destroyed, Smith said. The National Assembly chamber behind me, which you can see, is gutted. A structural ceiling has collapsed, and the fire staff had to be momentarily withdrawn. Firefighters were still actively battling fires in the Parliament's National Assembly building on Sunday evening. A Cape Town Fire and Rescue Department spokesperson told CNN the first and second floors of the old Assembly building have been completely gutted. The intense blaze and third floor of the old Assembly building caved in earlier in the day, the spokesperson added. The Parliamentary Complex, which dates back to 1884, consists of a cluster of buildings. The National Assembly, or lower house of the Parliament, is situated in what is known as the New Wing. The upper house, or the National Council of Provinces, is located in what is called the Old Assembly. The fire started in the office area of the complex before spreading to the National Assembly chambers. Firefighters got to the scene after 6 a.m. and had some difficulties gaining access due to the building's security features, Smith said. The fire broke out the day after anti-apartheid hero Desmond Tutu's funeral was held at the St. George's Cathedral in Cape Town, not far from the Parliament. Which is interesting. Looks like I don't see anything right now on a possible cause of the fire. I'm sure that'll come out in days. I would say that there's a 50-50 shot that there might be arson involved, especially being so close to the funeral. So we'll see what happens with that, and this might even have to do with lockdowns once again. And more fire news. A lot of fire news this morning. And I think we're going to call it after this one. We'll do these next three tomorrow. A Planned Parenthood clinic burns down in Knoxville. From Tony Garcia. The Planned Parenthood in East Knoxville burned down on Friday morning. Channel 10 News in Knoxville was the first to report that firefighters reported to the scene of the heavy fire on Cherry Street around 5:40 a.m. According to KFD, fire crews remained outside the structure due to the severity of the flames, choosing to attack the fire from the exterior. KFD reported that Planned Parenthood Clinic has been closed for renovations during the fire. The building was empty, but it's now considered a total loss. KFD is currently investigating the cause of the fire. They dispatched 9 fire units with 30 firefighters to the scene. No injuries have been reported. Well, we'll see. But the den of evil has burned, so... I mean, if somebody went in and damaged and destroyed property, yes, that person needs to be held accountable off of this, but... Are we at a wash here, maybe? I don't know. A den of evil destroyed, but arson is still a federal crime. I don't know. I have a hard time with that one. Alright, and that's the last we're going to do as far as the news for the day, but the last thing that we do on a Tuesday is the Twitter trends for the day. So let's bring the Explore page over to here, over to this screen, and see what's trending on Twitter today. Alright, I-95 is trending, top number trend right now. Drivers are stranded for 15 plus hours on parts of I-95 in Virginia. The interstate was shut down Tuesday through the Fredericksburg area. Chopper 4 flew over the scene. Let's see if they've got the video of this. No, it's just a picture. And that's the same article that we read up at the top of the show. So, yep, they're still sitting out there. That's lame. Commanders is trending. Today, the Today Show tweets out, exclusive, Washington football team announces plans to reveal the new team name and identity. Let's go ahead and bookmark that for tomorrow. But it appears that it's going to be the Washington Commanders. Is this going to be a stolen valor thing? Are we going to be talking about this again in a few? No, of course not. We're not going to talk about that because that's going to involve white people largely. But looks like the Washington football team finally has a name after 3 years. I mean, I thought they were just going to put plain white uniforms and a barcode on them. At this point, they were so generic. Calliope Space. Content creator Maury Calliope hosted a space. I don't know who that is. I heard you like JoJo. Maury Calliope. I don't know any of this. Maybe I'm too old. Alright, that's the number 3. We skipped the Tuesday vibe, so number 4 will be National Trivia Day. Did you know that January 4th is National Trivia Day? Dude, I love trivia. I can find all these interesting little factoids and commit them to memory. The Jeep Mafia says it's National Trivia Day, so of course we have some Jeep trivia for you all, which is true about the Jeep Grand Wagoneer. It was the last vehicle sold in America with a carburetor and full wood exterior trim packages on all models. I believe it is the second, because I believe there are vehicles sold in America with a carburetor after the Wagoneer, but not many. Did you know no word in the English language rhymes with month, orange, silver, or purple? And La Rock of Seattle will get the last one off of this trend. It says, Happy National Trivia Day. What is your favorite piece of random trivia? Mine is a group of crows is called a murder. I remember the medicinal marijuana episode of The Simpsons because my roommate was obsessed with it. What are we doing around here with a bunch of crows? It's a murder. What? A group of crows is called a murder. I can't do a Homer Simpson voice. That's one I can't do. Alright, last one. Atlas Shrugged. Oh, this is going to be good. This is either going to be really good or a dumpster fire. Green Bay quarterback Aaron Rodgers points out Ayn Rand's 1957 novel Atlas Shrugged on his bookshelf during his appearance on Peyton and Eli's Manning cast. Oh, Jesus Christ. Did you really need to throw more fuel on the fire, Aaron? Seriously? And yeah, we are getting to the point now where this is getting more like the NFL, and Aaron Rodgers is going to be the heel. He's going to be the heel in the new issue of the NFL. He's going to be the anti-hero. So that more people will come back and talk about the NFL. Let's see. Marcus Hayes tweets out, Aaron Rodgers brags he has Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged on his bookshelf, explains everything. To which John Ziegler quote tweets and says, actually, Atlas Shrugged really does explain everything. This liberal media guy should read it sometime. Damn, Aaron Rodgers really triggered the whole woke crowd tonight. I have not read that book yet. Might have to go put it on my list if I ever finish Sum of All Fears, which I'm picking up pretty quickly. I didn't read it all on the vacation, which I wanted to, but I'm picking more of that up as we go. Yeah, all the NPCs. Aaron Rodgers reading Atlas Shrugged is not surprising at all. Well, maybe some of you guys should read it too. How unfamiliar with the NFL do you have to be to think that owning a copy of Atlas Shrugged is even in the top 10 million things on the list of bad things professional football players has done? Mike says, yeah, what kind of weirdo reads Ayn Rand at damn near 40? Well, I'm going to be. And Mike quote tweets and says, Hawks Bears Cubs says, 2 novels can change a bookish 14-year-old's life. Lord of the Rings, which I've also never read, and Atlas Shrugged. One is a childish fantasy that engenders lifelong obsession with unbelievable heroes, leading to an emotionally stunted, socially crippled adult unable to deal with the real world. The other involves orcs. Ah, I see what you did there. Yeah, these Twitter people love to pile on to the Ayn Rand. And like I said, I will myself not come out and judge the quality or the life-changingness of Atlas Shrugged, because I've never read it. It might be fantastic and it might suck as much as they say it does. I don't know. But with that, I think we're going to be over for the day. So let's change up the track and let's head out of here for the day. Change the scene, change the track. So, thanks everybody who came by and chatted with us in the live chat. Hung out with us here today. Hey, even with a few news stories, we had a little bit of a long day and we finished out later than we needed to and had to skip a few. That's the nature of contemporary, I guess. When you have unlimited time, it's a little bit different here. But thanks everybody who came by and stuck it out with us to the end. Make sure you guys go check out Stephen Ignoramus. He says he's going to be on and on time today, so unfortunately, I'll be at work and I won't be able to catch any of it, but we'll see if he does it. We'll see if he pulls it off, and we will see you here tomorrow for more Contemporary. Until then, take care, you guys. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary.